Okay, solving the mystery of impact measurement. We can only improve what we measure. And as we heard it this morning, we are in a volatile world where change is as fast as ever. So this impacts people's performance. And how do we make the difference between the impact of learning on people's performance and the impact of the changes in the world? And stand up if you find it hard, challenging measuring impacts. Stand up, please. Oh, everyone agrees.
Wow. I got my work cut out for me today.
So today we are lucky to have with us Kevin M. Yates, also known as the L&D Detective. So Kevin has experience in industries including education, financial services, insurance, news media, professional services, food services, and social media. In his spare time, he is also the founder of a non-profit charity called Meals in the Meantime for people who need food. So now you are going to experience an immersive session. So you will need paper, a pen, and your phone. All right? So please get ready to roll up your sleeves and help Kevin solve an impact measurement mystery.
Thank you. Am I on? Mic is on? You guys can hear me? Everybody can hear me? Hello, everybody. Let's do a little bit better than that. I know it's late in the afternoon and maybe we're a little tired. And I'm an only child, and so I love attention. So let's try that again. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. I am so excited to be here with you today. I flew all the way from Chicago just to be with you. How about that? How many of you have heard of me, the L&D Detective, by show of hands? Ooh, no pressure. So some of you have and some of you have not. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about who I am. I want to spend the bulk of our time today diving into the content. So I am from Chicago, Illinois. I've been in training and learning and talent development for more years than I want to say. For the past 10 or so years, I have been primarily focused on measuring the impact of training and learning. And so what we're going to do today is immerse you in an experience where you will actually be helping me solve an impact measurement mystery. Are you guys ready for that? Yeah. Are you guys ready for that? Yeah. All right, here we go. As Virginia said earlier, if you maybe just walked in, you're going to need your phone, maybe even something to write on, and maybe even a sheet of paper. Or if you can write in your phone, that's good also. You'll just want to be capturing some notes and some thoughts and ideas based on what we're going to be taking a look at today as we solve a measurement impact mystery together. So what I want to do is focus on 5 core beliefs about measuring the impact of training and learning. These 5 core beliefs guide my work, they guide my thinking, and they guide my process when I think about and engaged in the work of measuring the impact of training and learning. I think that when Virginia asked the question, how many of you find measuring impact challenging? I think everybody in the room stood up, right? So my goal for today is to make it a lot easier for you to be able to measure the impact of training and learning. So these 5 core beliefs, I just want to run through them very quickly. The very first one, this is the biggest challenge when it comes to measuring the impact of training and learning. What usually happens, team, more often than not, is that the definition for impact is not decided up front before the training or learning solution is designed or before it is consumed or before it is utilized. And that makes it very difficult to measure the impact of training when you don't know what you're looking for. The second point, impact is what you define it as, which is really related to the first point. You have to define impact so that you know what you're looking for, and then when you know what you're looking for, it's that much easier to find. Does that make sense, guys? Right? So, point number 3, when you know what you're looking for, the essence of what you're doing when you're measuring impact is measuring purpose fulfilled. Sometimes I like to replace measuring impact with measuring purpose fulfilled, right? Because it just resonates, and it means a lot more when you talk about measuring purpose fulfilled versus measuring impact. Those terms are synonymous. I use them both together. The fourth point there, then, this is an important piece, a very important piece. Number 4 tells us that there will be times where you cannot measure the impact of training, right? Don't shoot me. Don't shoot the messenger, as they say. But there will be times where you cannot measure the impact of training. There will be times where you can. And that kind of connects with point number 5. And this is an important piece. Measuring impact is difficult and it is possible, right? So let's not forget the possible piece. But let's remember that it can be difficult and there are times where it is difficult. So the time that I'm going to spend with you today is really focused on what can we do to make measuring impact less difficult and more possible. Are you guys ready for that? Yeah. All right, let's take a look at the next piece here. These are L&D Detective tips, TIPS. The T stands for targeted, which means that when we're measuring impact, what we want to do is find a metric or a data point that we can use as signal for the effectiveness or the impact of training and learning. That's the T in TIPS. Intentional, which means that we've defined the impact up front, as I just mentioned. We've defined it up front, we've defined it earlier, right? So we know exactly what we're looking for. We don't have to guess. We don't have to shoot in the dark. If we've defined it, we know up front exactly what we're looking for. The third point is that we want our training and our learning solutions to be purposeful, which means that there is an area of behavior, actions, or performance that we are targeting with our training and learning solutions. And so as an outcome, we want to be able to see a change in behavior, actions, and performance. And then the very last one is specific. And specific means that we need to be very clear about the goal for impact using that target metric that we talked about earlier, right? So when we talk about being specific, that means we can't just say that we want to increase quality or we want to reduce time. That means when we're specific, we have to increase quality, say by 5%, or we want to reduce time by 2 minutes. So the essence of what I'm saying here, team, is that when we talk about specific, we have to be very, very clear about how we want that target metric that we talked about to respond to training and learning. Does that make sense, everybody? All right, so what we're going to do today, and here's the fun part, right? Here's the fun part, because you guys are probably thinking, yeah, Kevin, we know all that, blah, blah, blah. Get to the fun stuff, right? I want to introduce you to Pharma Fantastic. Pharma Fantastic is a case study company that we're going to be working with today to help them measure the impact of their training and learning. So this is who Pharma Fantastic is.
Pharma Fantastic is a global pharmaceutical business. There are 3,000 employees with offices in Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America. The business has been in operation for just a little over 3 years. They've experienced growth year over year and have exceeded industry expectations for a pharmaceutical startup. They attract top talent with their reputation for growth, high energy culture, and generous compensation and benefits. Pharma Fantastic conducts semi-annual employee engagement surveys in June and December. Part of the survey evaluates employee experience with career growth and progression. In the survey, employees are asked about the extent to which they feel supported by managers with career planning. The last survey revealed employees are having less than favorable experiences with managers for career growth. The business is also seeing an increase in voluntary resignations. Exit interviews show lack of career growth contributes to employees' decision to leave the business. They've invested heavily in product development, technology, and employee perks. Investments in people development are minimal. In response to low employee engagement scores for career growth, the business decides to invest in manager training for career-based conversations with employees.
All right, so here's what we know. Here's what we know. Pharma Fantastic is experiencing attrition, voluntary resignations, because employees do not feel supported in their career growth in the business. So that's a problem. And as a result of that problem, they want to create a training program that will help managers do a better job at supporting their employees through their career journeys, right? Does that make sense? Yep, all right. So, in response to the opportunity to create a training and learning solutions that will impact managers' ability to help their employees on their career journey, there are 9 questions that we want to ask. This is what I call the impact opportunity investigation. These 9 questions, when answered, will give us an opportunity to create training and learning solutions that measurably impact people's, or rather managers' performance and their ability to help their employees on the career journey. Now, this is a small room, right? And we're all friends. We're amongst friends here, right? Just yell it out. What do you notice about these questions? Just your immediate reaction, and there's no such thing as a bad response. When you see these questions, what jumps out at you?
A lot of work.
A lot of work, all right, that's true. I love that you said that. What else? It's a lot about who and what. What else do you guys notice? Give me a couple of more observations. You need others, and what were you saying here? We didn't use the word learning or training. How about this, guys? When you take a look at these questions, do these questions have anything to do with training? No. You know what these questions are focused on, team? These questions are focused on performance as an outcome of training and learning. And that's where we get the impact. Does that make sense? So quite often, as training, learning, and talent development professionals, we get orders. We get orders for training, right? Someone says, I'd like 1 e-learning, 2 instructor-led, and a side order of business simulation. It feels like that sometimes, right? These questions are not about order taking. These questions are more about performance as an outcome. I'm going to introduce you to a couple of people. The first person I'm going to introduce you to is Dexter Robinson. Dexter is an L&D consultant for Pharma Fantastic. I also want to introduce you to Naomi Lee. Naomi Lee is a product owner for Pharma Fantastic, so she sits in the business. Dexter received a training request from Naomi in response to the problem that the business is having with employee attrition based on employees feeling like they aren't supported with their career growth and their career journey. So, we're going to take a look at a video that shows the conversation between Dexter and Naomi.
Hey Naomi, good to see you again. I got your training request and I want to get a bit more information about what you need. What are the business goals for your training request?
Our goal is training managers on the importance of helping employees plan their careers. They need to understand how to do a better job at this. We need to get all our managers trained in the next couple of months, and I think 3 hours of training would be good.
Got it. That's helpful to know. How do we know managers aren't doing a good job at helping employees with career planning?
Well, our employee engagement scores for career growth are dangerously low. We're also seeing a slight increase in voluntary resignations, and exit interviews tell us that not having a clear career path contributes to employees leaving. I believe we've become comfortable with our success and our growth, and we haven't given enough attention to manager training. Our managers haven't received the support they need to be the best people leaders they can be. We want this training so managers can be better leaders.
What is the opportunity or problem to solve?
Well, it's what I've already said. The problem is our employees don't feel supported by managers when it comes to career growth and development. Managers are either not having the right discussion or not having the discussion at all. I'm afraid we'll continue to see a rise in voluntary resignations if we don't get this right. The training needs to help managers understand the importance of helping employees with their career goals.
Who is supporting the business goal?
What do you mean?
Are there any groups or teams focused on helping managers with career discussions for their employees? Are there other projects or programs planned or already in place that address career planning, employee engagement scores, or our attrition rate, and if so, who's leading these projects?
Oh, I see what you mean. To my knowledge, there isn't anything else we're doing to improve employee engagement scores, and that's why we need training. I believe Rakesh and the HR team are working on some videos about career conversations, so you might want to talk to him.
Okay, I'll follow up with Rakesh. Just to confirm, we're talking about performance expectations for managers, right? People leaders?
Yes, the target audience is managers in all our offices, all 8 offices. If you're leading people and teams, you need this training.
Got it. So, we're talking about performance expectations for managers leading people and teams. What are the performance requirements?
You mean, what are the performance requirements for training? I'm getting a little confused. I'm not seeing how the questions you're asking are related to the training we need. I thought we were going to talk about my training request.
My goal is ensuring we make the best possible recommendation to achieve the business goal, and I want to be clear about the problem we're trying to solve and...
But I've already told you what the problem is. We need a 3-hour class that helps managers talk to their employees about advancing their careers.
Yes, I totally hear what you're saying and what you're asking for. It may be that training is not the right solution, or it could be. In either case, I want to set you up for success. My question about performance helps me be clear about the skills and capabilities managers need to be successful. So, what I'm asking isn't directly related to training, but the answers to my questions will inform decisions for the best possible solution. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm just not used to all these questions when I request training. What was your question again?
What are the performance requirements for managers to be successful with helping employees plan for their careers?
I'm not exactly sure. Sounds like you're asking for a job description. Maybe you can start with that. Let me think about this and let you know. If I can't figure it out, I'll connect you with someone who can. What else do you need to know? We have about 10 minutes before my next meeting.
Can you describe the performance gap?
What do you mean?
If you compare where managers' performance is today with where it needs to be with helping employees with career planning, what does that look like?
I'm not sure I can answer that question either. I'll get back to you.
No worries. I just have 3 more questions and we'll be done. What do you believe influences managers' ability to have the right kinds of career-based discussions with employees? What has potential to activate manager performance for this?
I suspect there are a few things that can influence manager performance. Natural ability is one thing. Some folks are just naturally good at this. Being held accountable is another thing to consider. I mean, if managers aren't doing what we need them to do, there needs to be consequences for that. Rewards and recognition can motivate managers too. I think managers having some type of toolkit for career-based discussions would also help.
Is there data or key performance indicators we can use that measure managers' performance with having career-based discussions with their employees?
We can use results from the employee engagement survey. We can also use our attrition rate since we're seeing a connection between employee engagement scores for career planning and turnover.
Okay, here's my last question. What are some risks or threats to manager performance? So, what I mean by that is, what can prevent managers from having the kinds of discussions with employees that help them achieve their career goals?
I mean, there's a few things that could go wrong, I guess. Maybe managers just aren't good at it, you know. Or maybe managers don't have the information they need to help employees with career planning. The other obstacle may be employees' perception about who owns what. I believe there's equal ownership between employees and managers for career planning. It's not just up to the manager, so another risk is the expectation that managers carry the bulk of responsibility for career planning.
Got it. This is all very helpful. I know you have to join another call, so my next steps are following up with Rakesh in HR, and I'll wait to hear back from you with the performance requirements and performance gaps we talked about.
How many of you have a Naomi in your life? Right? That was a difficult conversation, wasn't it? Take about 5 minutes, talk to the person that's next to you, and share what you heard or share what you thought that experience looked like. So take about 5 minutes for that, and just talk about what you saw, what you heard. Maybe even talk about how that experience is similar to experiences that you've had when you've had to talk to a business partner, right? Just take 5 minutes to do that. Talk to the person next to you, across from you. Don't be afraid to talk to each other. You may have to get up. So good.
Same thing. So like she wanted.
Good. Virginia, I have an idea. All right, everybody. I walked around and I heard some really good discussions, some really good conversations. In about 2 minutes, I want to hear from you, right? This is your time. We're here for you today. So just yell it out. Yell it out. What are some of the things that you guys talked about? We'd love to hear what you had to say.
Focused on the solution rather than the actual need behind. Naomi was focused directly on the solution.
Naomi was focused on the solution. That never happens, right? What else did you guys talk about?
The language barrier between what we as LDs understand as we know what we need, but people outside the industry don't always. Like sometimes she couldn't understand what she was being asked.
Yes, a language barrier in terms of how we speak and how the business speaks. How about a couple of more things? How about someone from over here? What did you guys talk about? Anyone? Yes.
Making people understand that they need to make time for the need analysis and not just rush into the next stage.
I love what she said because I don't remember where you are, sir, but you said it. This takes time. Right, guys? This kind of conversation takes time, but it's time well spent, isn't it? How about someone else, one other person? Yes, sir, what did you talk about?
There's a challenge in actually having that conversation with the right person. Sometimes you've got somebody coming at you with what they think is the request, and actually when you start digging into it, it's coming from somewhere else.
That's a great point.
That's a challenge.
Yes. And that is a great lead-in for what we're going to do next. Do you guys remember it was like 2 or 3 questions that Dexter asked Naomi about performance and she couldn't answer those questions? Do you guys remember that? Yeah. And she did say she was going to get back to him. You guys remember that? Well, she did get back to him. But before we do that, I want to talk about this first to summarize what we just talked about, because that conversation that Dexter and Naomi had together is a very different kind of conversation than the one that we as training, learning, and talent development professionals are used to having, right? That conversation was based on discovery, right? Curiosity. That conversation was rooted in performance as an outcome for training and learning, right? And then the most important thing, and my favorite, that was not about order taking. Naomi tried to place an order. Could you feel the tug and the back and forth, right? Where Dexter was trying to ask questions to get at the root of the performance need, but Naomi kept going back to, we need 3-hour training, right? She went straight to solution, right? But as I said, Naomi Naomi was not able to answer some questions. She sent Dexter an email with the answers to his questions. We're going to take a look at that email using a QR code. So what we did here, underneath the QR code is the URL email, or rather the URL for the website if you're having trouble with your QR code. Those of you who are sitting over here, you may need to get up if you can't get it. Feel free to just kind of move over if you can't get it. But what you're going to see when you get to that QR code is the follow-up email that Naomi sent to Dexter to answer the questions that she couldn't answer. So take a moment and take a look at that email that she followed up with. It might be easier for you to start at the bottom of that email and go to the top. If not, that's fine. All right, I'm starting to see a few heads look up, which lets me know that you have had a chance to take a look at that email. All right, real quick question, and again, just yell it out, just yell it out. What did Dexter get in that email that he didn't have before? What? Metrics. What kind of metrics? Quantitative metrics, yep. What else did Dexter get in that email that he was not able to get from Naomi? A new portal is coming up. What else? A goal, yes. What else? Anything else? He got the information that he needed so that when the training or learning solution is created, it will be firmly rooted in performance, right? And as my friend over here said earlier, he also got the metrics and the data that the training or learning solution, if that is the answer, will be used to show the extent to which training and learning has impacted performance. Does that make sense? One of the things that Naomi mentioned to Dexter is that there's another team that is working on videos. You guys remember when he said that? I want to introduce you now to Rakesh. Rakesh is an HR business partner, and he is working on videos that illustrate best practice conversations between employees and managers when managers are trying to help their employees navigate through the career journey, right? So take a look and take a listen at the conversation between Rakesh and Dexter. And remember, what Dexter is doing is getting the answers to those 9 questions so that if training and learning is the solution, he will be able to build a training and learning solution that measurably impacts human performance.
I'm working on a training request from Naomi, and she shared that you and the HR team are working on videos that simulate career conversations for managers and employees. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. The videos we are working on illustrate best practice for how to have career planning discussions. We have separate videos for managers and
All right, so Dexter is really doing a great job of being an L&D detective because he's answering the questions that need to be answered in order to create a training and learning solution that is focused on performance and that will measurably impact managers' ability to support their employees in the career journey, right? You may recall in that conversation that Rakesh referenced Isabella, who owns the employee engagement, right? The employee engagement survey, that is. So there's some more information that Dexter wants to get as he continues this impact investigation, right? So Rakesh reached out to Isabella and asked if she could help Dexter. And she did that via email. Take a look at the email that Isabella sent on Rakesh's behalf. All right. I see a few heads looking up, which lets me know you're done reading that email, right? What did Dexter get from that email? What information was he able to get as a result of that email? What do you guys think? No such thing as a wrong answer. What do you guys think? Just yell it out.
Limited statistics.
Statistics.
Limited.
Limited statistics? Okay, all right. What else do you guys think he was able to get as a result of that email? Anyone? The current reality, yep. So we know where we stand, right? We know what the current level of performance is for managers, right? So we have an idea for where there's opportunity for improvement. Do you guys agree with that? Yep. Let's take a look at another conversation that Dexter is having. All right, so I'm going to go back to the idea of those 9 questions that we took a look at a little earlier. I guarantee you, if you can get the answers to those 9 questions, you're going to be so much better positioned to measure the impact of training. But more importantly, if you get the answers to those 9 questions, you're going to be so much better positioned to create a training or learning solution that measurably influences or impact performance. And again, I heard someone say it earlier, this is a lot of work, right? This is not order taking. Order taking is easy, right? So someone comes to us again and they say, I need training, and then we go off and create training. Well, this is a discovery-based discussion. This is a discussion based on curiosity. And the answers to these questions are going to inform decisions that help us create the right types of training and learning solutions. And most important, it's going to set us up very nicely to be able to measure the impact of training and learning. Does that make sense, guys? Yes? All right. Let's keep the story going, because now we're getting to the good part. Dexter has got the answers to those 9 questions. Dexter has the answers to those 9 questions, and so he created an impact summary in response to those 9 questions, right? Take a look at what Dexter's impact summary looks like. Take a look at what he discovered based on the conversations that he had that were deeply rooted in performance. Does anyone need more time? If you do, it's okay. Just raise your hand, let me know. Any hands going up? No hands going up? All right. Oh, a hand somewhere. Thank you, Virginia. Maybe let's take about a minute left. And after that minute, I want to hear from you. All right. I see most heads are up. Most heads are up. If you're still reading, that's okay. That's fine. Yell it out. What did you get from that impact summary? What did you get from that impact summary? Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. Just yell it out. You got purpose, clarity. What else? I'm sorry? Alignment. Oh, my goodness. She said alignment. I'm so glad you said that. Because if you look at that impact summary, that is what alignment looks like, right? As a profession, we talk about alignment a lot, don't we? How many of you guys talk about alignment, right? That impact summary is exactly what alignment looks like. Again, this is a very different kind of conversation. Those 9 questions are rooted in performance and creating training and learning solutions with measurable outcome. They're necessary. It takes time. We're not used to asking those types of questions. Our business partners are not used to hearing those types of questions, but there is purpose in asking those types of questions. Would you agree? Thank you. So, we're almost done. Just got one more email that I want you to take a look at, and then we're done looking at emails. How about that? So, Dexter has gathered all the information he needs in order to make a recommendation about whether or not training and learning is the right solution or not. So he's going to send his recommendation to Naomi based on his impact summary, right? Take a look at Dexter's recommendation. Email number 3. Last email. Take a look at Dexter's recommendation based on his impact summary, based on him doing an impact investigation. He now has a recommendation. Take a look at what he's recommending.
It's not a 3-hour course.
Someone said a 3-hour course. Let us know if you need the QR code if you're unable to grab it from the screen. All right, I see, excuse me, I see a few heads looking up. Still a few heads down. That's totally fine. All right, let's talk about this for a little bit. What are your thoughts about Dexter's recommendation? Just yell it out again. We're all family and friends here. Just yell it out. What are your observations about Dexter's recommendation for a training and learning solution? What did you notice? Very comprehensive. Thank you. Targeted.
Nowhere is there any mention of a training course.
Nowhere is there any mention of a training course. There were some training solutions there, some learning solutions, right? Yes. What else? What else did you guys notice about Dexter's recommendation? How about over here? I would love to hear from this side of the room. What were you going to say?
They need to pilot.
They need what? I'm sorry?
To pilot the solution.
They need to pilot. Yes, you picked that up. Very good. A couple of more responses. What else did you notice about his recommendation?
It is a process and not one show.
It's a process and not one show, like one stop shopping for training once you placed your order, right? Yes, ma'am. So I think I'm hearing you say it was collaborative. Is that kind of what you're saying? If I were to summarize? Thank you. Yes, sir.
I would say, yes, collaborated together all the siloed work which was being done by separate departments. He put them all together in one document for Naomi to see and make a decision.
Thank you for saying that. So what he said was that rather than a siloed approach, in Dexter's recommendation, we can see that, again, it's a collaborative effort, right? Let's keep it going because the plot thickens, right? We saw, yeah, what do you want to say?
The timeline gives ample room for measurement.
The timeline gives ample room for measurement. I love that you said that. And that's actually the first time I've heard somebody say that, but you're absolutely right. Because it takes time to do this, right? We talked about that earlier. This is not a quick process. It's not quick at all, right? So let's talk about this. You recall that Dexter recommended a pilot, and he recommended a pilot because there are multiple triggers or activators for people performance, right? These are just some. There may be other things that activate human performance or people performance. And when we want to be able to isolate the impact of training along with all these other triggers, the best way to do that, the most credible way to do that, the most reliable way to do that is by piloting with a test and a control group, right? So for those of you that don't know, when we have a control group, that's the group that does not get training, not because we're withholding it from them deliberately as punishment or something like that, but rather we want to take a subset from that control group and we want to give them the training, give them the learning solution, give them the experience so that we can compare and contrast any differences between the test group and the control group. That way we have a good signal for the effectiveness of our training and learning solution. Does that make sense? Yes? Let me hear it. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. So there's a little twist in the plot here, though, right? Because Dexter recommended a pilot, right? Let's see what Naomi thinks about that.
Hey Dexter, you got a second to talk?
Sure. Let's start a video chat. Hey Naomi, what's up?
Hey Dexter, I wanted to follow up and get back to you on your training proposal. I really like where you're headed, and you have some really good ideas, but leadership does not want a pilot.
Do we know why?
They don't want to wait on getting training out to managers in all our offices at the same time.
Okay. What do you think?
I think we have to do
She's just throwing all kind of stuff our way. So how real is that situation, though? By a show of hands, how many of you think that's a real situation? It is real, right? Now, what we lose by not doing a pilot is the ability to compare and contrast the difference between those who got the training and those who didn't so that we could get a stronger signal about how effective that learning solution is, right? But that's the reality, and that is what Dexter has to work with. I'm going to fast forward now to the next half after the training solution has been implemented within the business. So let's take a look at the data that shows the extent to which training and learning made an impact or not. The first thing I'm going to show you is some consumption and utilization data. This data is fine, but here's the problem. More often than not, this is where we stop. You guys agree with that? How many of you guys agree? How many of you guys agree with that? Right? This is kind of where we stop. This is important data, but there's more to the story, right? When we're measuring impact, there's more data that we can take a look at that shows the extent to which training fulfilled its purpose. Here's what that data looks like. I'll give you a moment here to just kind of soak that in. What do you guys think? Did training make an impact? What do you guys think? So someone said, how do we know that it was training? Something is happening here, right? Now, again, I've been in the training, learning, and talent development industry for more years than I want to say. And my gray hair tells you that. Well, actually, I dye my hair gray. It's really black underneath, just kidding. So what I would say, if I have this information in front of me, as an L&D detective, and considering the work that I do to measure the impact of training and learning, I would be very confident in saying training and learning contributed to moving the needle on the critically important metrics that the business is using to determine the extent to which employees are having good experiences with their managers when it comes to career discussions. Did you notice I didn't say training did it by itself? I can't say that. But what I can say, based on what we look at here, is that this is a good signal that shows the extent to which training and learning made an impact. That's the truth. I could not make the risk of saying training did it by itself, but I'm also confident that training contributed to the results. Does that make sense? I want to leave you with a point, and then Virginia and I are going to have a little conversation. I hope that through this immersive experience, you not only saw what makes measuring impact difficult, I also hope that you saw what makes measuring impact possible. It's messy, it's thrashy, it can be complex, but at the end of the day, if you get the answers to those 9 questions, you're headed on the right path for creating a training and learning solution that has potential for measurably impacting human performance and ultimately business goals. I want to thank you for your time. I hope that this was helpful. Was it helpful? Yes. Did you like being immersed? Right? I didn't want to just stand up here and talk. I wanted you to experience what it's like to be me, right? You got a real feel for what my life was like day to day when I'm trying to measure the impact of training and learning. Last thing I'll share with you, and then we'll have a little conversation. On my website, kevinmyates.com, I have the L&D Detective Kit and Impact Templates. They are free. $3, 0 cents, right? So I invite you to go to my website, grab a copy of the L&D Detective Kit, and that will walk you through all the steps that we just walked through today. Virginia, do you have any questions for me?
Well,
oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
I can see we already have one question in the audience. So please wait for the microphone. Yeah, here, thank you.
Yeah, so don't you ever isolate the impact of the training program?
Do I ever isolate the impact? Yes.
Yeah.
So when there is when there is opportunity to do a test group and a control group, or often what we call A/B testing, that is where I am able to isolate the impact of training, because when you have 2 groups and the only difference between those 2 groups is that one, or the only variable between those 2 groups is that one had training and the other one didn't, that gives you a really strong signal for the impact of training when you isolate it that way. So your question is, do I isolate the impact of training? I do when the opportunity presents itself. But to borrow modern day vernacular, I gotta keep it real, which is why I wanted to share this experience with you, because quite often the business does not have the patience, the inclination, or the interest in doing pilot and test groups. Thank you for asking that question. Got a question over there?
All right. Hi. Can you... Hi, Kevin.
Where are you?
Here.
Oh, yeah.
If I don't know if you want to... You don't have to go back to the previous slide, but you showed your target as 85 and, the interim results being a little lower, which is, does happen, right?
Yep.
And so I actually wondered, when that first metric or the first target was first set, how would you get at determining that and how much investigation would go into that? Because I would imagine that if the change you want to see is so dramatic as on some of those metrics it was from 40% to 85, theoretically the solution might need to be like super high caliber, right? As opposed to a few training videos and a few other things. So an investment will be different. Long question to effectively say, the more the difference between where you are now and where the target is, I guess the more complex the solution. And so how would you have that conversation to determine what is the appropriate target for whatever timeline or budget you have?
That's a great question. And in terms of setting the target, that is not what L&D does, because L&D doesn't own those metrics. Guess who sets the target? The business. Let's be real clear about that. We are part of the winning solution, but we are not the winning solution, which means that for those targets that are set, we might make a recommendation, but ultimately, the business is the one who sets the targets for the metrics they want to use to determine how successful the business is in doing what it's doing, right? Again, we might consult, but at the end of the day, the business owns those metrics and the business sets those metrics, not L&D. Does that answer your question? Kinda.
So one of the factors of impact in the performance of the managers was reward, which can be tied to compensation. But I haven't seen in Dexter's solution anything that has to do with things that are outside of L&D. Would you recommend, or have you done it yourself, recommending solutions that are not in L&D's hat?
Yeah, so the question is, of all that we have in our toolkit, are we limited to only those things that L&D owns? And the answer to that question is no. We can provide recommendations, thoughts, and ideas that are outside of our toolkit. And again, it's up to the business to determine the extent to which what we offer up or provide as a recommendation, how far they go with that. But I love that question because we don't have to limit ourselves to offering only solutions that are L&D based. We think big, we see a lot from where we sit in the business, right? So we may have some good ideas that go beyond. Do we have time for one more question? Virginia? Okay.
Yes, we do.
Hi, thank you. I'm just curious about how Dexter did his very lengthy discovery, apart from the question that I hope he got paid, because very often consultants don't for that discovery session. But also, do you look at, or is it wise for L&D to ask for a company's theory of change, their broader strategy, so that you're not just jumping between departments for tidbits of information?
I love that she said that. What we saw was Dexter having to jump through a lot of hoops to get the information that he needed, right? Sometimes it's just what we have to do. But there are other times where when we are engaged with the businesses in which we work, we have the perspective where some of those questions we can answer ourselves because of the level of engagement that we have in the businesses that we work. So to answer your questions, there are times where we have to jump through a lot of hoops, and that's okay. But then there are other times, based on what we already know about the business, some of those questions we've already answered because of our connection with the business. Does that make sense? How are we doing with time?
Yeah, we still have 10 minutes.
Oh, wow. Did you say 10?
Yes.
Yeah.
My goodness, awesome. This is the best part. Cool. And we got one. I got to make sure, because I love the color of your sweater, your shirt. You get to ask me something. Where are we?
Here? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I think it was very engaged. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And even we have time for questions, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I think that's a good point that we have to do, that Dexter was going to this and this and this, and then it's like sending an email. I think that working cross-functionally and then having all people in the room that will give a lot of, time to question every one point of view and then to put all together, because if not, it's really going to one person to the other person. It's nice to see that it's not a learning solution at the end, it's more than that. I have the feeling that sometimes they are only, as mentioned, is taking orders and is a learning solution, but this is not solving the problem, because a learning intervention is not solving a problem or changing. That's something, I don't know what we can do, but we need to really go in the leadership and saying a learning intervention is not changing anything. So how we can engage the people to understand that it's changing behaviors is not about a learning intervention. So I see that even the comment that you mentioned about it's not about the learning intervention, is about the awarding, just putting in the plate different things that really make changes and not only the learning intervention. And so, and for me, that's really challenging sometimes to investigate and really have the buy-in from the other people on the solution that we are putting in place. Business always wants something tomorrow and not 9 months. So I don't know here if there is challenging of, okay, it's good, the solutions, but I don't want to spend 9 months to see results. That's another thing that probably we all at L&D were really finding this.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that stop us, learning interventions and not more things. And second is that I want results tomorrow.
Yep.
So how you approach that then?
I love that. I respond to that by telling the truth. And there's no more complicated than that. And you may recall that Dexter told the truth, right? Because Dexter said when Naomi told him that the business didn't want a pilot, Dexter was very clear in saying, okay, I hear you, Naomi, but here's the consequence for that. So an informed decision is the best decision. So he gave her what she needed to make a decision. She chose something different. We have no control over that. Our role is to make the best recommendation for the best solution possible that will impact employee performance. And the other thing I want to share with you, and you touched on this a little bit, winning is a team sport. In my 20 plus years in training, learning, and talent development, I have never, ever seen one instance where training and learning did something by itself. I have seen instances where training and learning in combination with other activators and other triggers have measurably influenced people's behavior, actions, and performance, but I've never seen training do it by itself. Have I seen things happen where training is contributing to an outcome? Yes, absolutely. So actually, guys, when I'm measuring impact, for me, it's almost as much as measuring what happened in the presence of training as it is measuring what would not happen in the absence of training. Does that make sense? So it's tricky, but what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, tell the truth. Let's let what we do be rooted in the truth. And it goes back to what I said earlier, right? Sometimes we can measure impact, sometimes we can't. This was one of those times where we could. We couldn't do it with a strong signal because we couldn't do that pilot group, but we still got a signal. You guys agree with that? My friend here, you have a question for me.
Yeah.
And you have the mic already.
Yes.
He was ready.
I was ready.
Okay, what you got?
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, you're using the 9 questions as a framework to analyze and then get results. And to build on previous questions, and very practically, where do you have a specific question there about outside factors, like environmental factors? For example, my manager is giving me conflicting priorities, and so I cannot be fully customer focused, which is the object of this training. So how, like, when exactly are you measuring this, and when do you ask?
So the question is, when are we considering outside factors that have potential to impact performance, right?
Yeah.
So if you may not remember, but question number 9 got at that. It was stated in a different kind of way, but question number 9 was, what are the other potential risks to performance, right? So that kind of gives you some outside factors. And I believe it was question number 3 that asked, what are all the triggers or activators that contribute to employee performance? And again, I think that was question number 3. But that is where we would get at external influences that have potential to activate or impede employee performance. So in those questions, and download my detective kit, reference question 3 and question 9 for outside influences. Does that help and does that make sense?
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. I love that sweater. What size do you wear? How we doing with time?
Okay.
Very short, okay? Very short question, and it will be the last one. Thank you.
That's it. So listen, guys. This is
a short one.
Oh, a short. No, okay. And then I wanted to add something, but go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's great principles that you've covered.
Thank you.
I think we'd all like to do those with all of the kind of interventions that we discuss with stakeholders, but working off the basis that we can't do that, how would you sort of make the sort of differentiation between what you would treat with this kind of more fulsome approach versus, what you wouldn't, and you'd probably deliver a bit more quicker without all of these stages that we spoke about? And I mean, obviously, I'm sure everybody would apply that if we had the luxury of time to every single stakeholder interaction or item that we're working on. But how would you kind of make that differentiation by what you would kind of say, okay, well, I'm going to take this approach with this?
So the question is, how do you determine whether or not it's worth the effort to go down this path of asking all these questions? Is that kind of what you're asking? So I'll give you my honest answer. I believe it's worth the effort to always ask those questions. And here's why. Based on the answers to those questions, you may determine that training and learning is not the right solution, which means if you do the amount of work at the front end, you can prevent a whole lot of work on the back end for creating a training and learning solution for something that really didn't need training and learning, right? So it's a, what do they call that? It's a catch-22, right? So on the front end, yes, it takes more time to ask these questions. But on the back end, one or two things is going to happen. Now, in this example, it turns out that training and learning was a proper solution. It could have been a situation where, as a result of what Dexter gathered from those 9 questions, he looks at it and says, you know what, this is not a training or learning thing, this is something else. So I said all that to say, I believe it's worth the time to answer those 9 questions, because one or two things is going to happen. You're either going to determine that training and learning is not the right solution, and then you have the information you need to create a training and learning solution that is going to have the most potential for impacting human performance and business goals. Or the answers to those questions are going to reveal the fact that this is not training and learning at all. So I think it's worth the time and effort up front, because you're either going to, as a result of those questions, get a training and learning solution that impacts human performance, or you're going to determine that it's not, and then you save time and you can move on to something else. Does that make sense? Did it answer your question? Awesome. I think that we're out of time now.
Yeah, and I just want to add on that also, think about the ripple effect. Think that you are going to provide more quality solutions, and then people will be more, motivated to come to training afterwards. So this is really important that we put the right solutions in place.
Can I share one thing? I'm excited because this is the first time I've done this in Europe. So I debuted this experience in the United States in February, and it went over really well, and the feedback that we received is that it went over really well because it was less about me talking and more about you being immersed in an experience and actually doing a little bit of work and living my life for 70 minutes, right? An hour and 10 minutes. It was helpful, yes? Do you feel more empowered to think about a best approach for how to build training and learning solutions that will measurably influence human performance and business results? You guys feel a little more confident about that? Good. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right, please give a big applause to Kevin M. Yates.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your engagement. You can also give a big applause to yourself. And don't forget that now, go, big applause, And so now it's time for networking. So we have drinks outside from 5 to 6. So please speak as many people as you can. And don't forget what we said this morning. You need to connect with people who are different from you. So let's go.
If you got any questions, feel free. I'm going to stand up here for a few minutes.
So glad you're